Hey class, it's Xavier here. My project is on the liver fluke, Fasciola hepatica. I chose this because most of the tabling events for my work at Utah Department of Agriculture and Food are FFA events or other agriculture events and not aquaculture related. So I decided to branch out, do something that more relates to my coworkers and the rest of my division at animal industry. So without further ado, here is the tabling tactile interactive event. So if you came to a UDAF table, I'd say, hey, they'd say, hey, what are you doing? What's your table? What's UDAF? And I'd say, well, we are the state veterinarians, and we are in charge of making sure that animals and people alike aren't getting sick and that they're healthy. So one thing we test for in meat is the liver fluke, so that humans aren't accidental hosts, because we can be. So here's the life cycle. Starts with an egg, Fasciola hepatica egg, there it says. Now the egg is passed to the feces, unembryonated, then it matures in the water, becomes embryonated, hatches through its operculum. Boop, that's this top part of the egg. It has a little hatch, and out from that comes all these miracidium. I'm gonna have you hold out your hand, and then, okay, congratulations. Now, the snail is the intermediate host, and it's a necessary, required intermediate host. I'm gonna have whoever comes to the table put just 1 or 2 miracidia, the first larval stage. Not 2, just 1. Not 1 or 2, just 1. So 1 miracidium made it through the snail's foot and infected the snail. Now this person gets to eat all these M&Ms. That's part of the shtick. Infected through the foot of the snail. Have little shoes. Got to protect yourself. Inside the snail, there's 3 main larval stages. The miracidia go into sporocysts, then mature into radia, and those radia mature into cercaria. And cercaria have these little flagellum on them, right? So if you remember, snail got infected with the miracidium, and then it matures into sporocysts, then radia, and then, what's this? A cercaria. Cercaria actually busts out of the snail. And this is the flagellum on the cercaria that's floating around in the water. And it becomes a metacercaria, which is essentially the same thing, but just with no flagellum. It's no longer busting out of the snail. It's now resting in some aquatic vegetation. This is just hydrilla, just nothing, just a common aquatic plant. Could be any aquatic plant that the metacercaria finds itself on. It's just hanging out there until a sheep, or in this case a cow. Cow is most common in Utah because of wet pasture grazing, and sheep don't really graze on wet pastures where this intermediate host is going to be. So for the most part, a cow comes along, eats the metacercaria, not knowing it's on the vegetation. And 4 months after ingesting this metacercaria, an adult liver fluke matures in the biliary duct of the cow, or the liver, or the duodenum. That's where Fasciola hepatica lives. And so what happens is a state meat processing facility will call a state veterinarian for a second opinion to come down and look at an organ maybe it's the liver, maybe it's the bile duct, and they might find a fluke on there, and they might want to double check that it's not Fasciola hepatica, which humans can be an incidental host. So we want to make sure that humans don't get this in real life, not a delicious worm, but these are of course gummy worms. So that's my interactive final project. Everybody gets candy. I hope you learned about Fasciola hepatica, the liver fluke. That's it.